Your attention, masters, mistresses. All systems functional for the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, this is Rich McDonald, and I play Commander David Mason on Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, it's James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Master Plo Koon in Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you're listening to Everything Geek, the podcast.
Hey, it's Leif Gamfert. I played Uncle Ben's killer in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldovar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
You're listening to the Everything Geek podcast, bringing you interviews from your favorite films and TV shows every week, and all of the latest news. Here's your host, Ruari Williamson.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Rory, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have actress Ann Mahoney, who is best known for playing Olivia in The Walking Dead, Rita Walachowski in Barefoot, Coach Liza in Big Mama's House 2, Beth in Rectify, Jenna in the Frankenstein TV movie, Mabel in Hart of Dixie, and Astrid in Flakes. Ann, how are you?
I'm great.
I'm very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you join us today on the podcast.
Sounds like my kind of podcast. Everything Geek.
Well, you'll fit in just fine here then. That will make the interview so much easier. Yeah, so getting right into my questions for you, Anne. My first question is, how did you decide you wanted to become an actress?
I was quite young, actually. I started off on stage when I was around 4 or 5 years old as a dancer. And though I love dancing and I still love that expression of that art form, I found that I wanted to be able to speak, to express myself. So I started doing stage plays. And I had a teacher in high school who actually I talked about yesterday. His name was Morris Block. And he really believed in my talent and encouraged me to pursue it professionally. He actually passed away 2 days ago, 13 years prior, meaning it was the 13th anniversary. So he was a wonderful man. And then I went to college and grad school and studied acting. And so, yeah, I knew really early on that this was what I was
Very
doing.
interesting. And I was just about to offer my condolences until you said 13 years ago, but I'll offer my condolences anyway, just to be nice.
He's not buried far from my house. So I was visiting yesterday and noticed that, oh wow, it was Tuesday or Wednesday was the anniversary. So, Mr. Block.
Very nice, very interesting. So moving on to my second question for you, Anne, how were you initially cast as Olivia in The Walking Dead?
I got an audition. I had to put it on tape. So I taped it, but at the time I didn't know the character's name. And with this show, they don't give you sides. Sides are the pieces of the script. They don't give you sides from the script. They're written separately. So I had no idea who it was. I just knew I was auditioning for a recurring character on The Walking Dead. And then I found out that they cast me. They cast me from the tape. And within 2 days, I was on set.
Wow, that is very fast. That's interesting that you knew prior that it was actually for The Walking Dead, because I know of some big projects like The Walking Dead, people at first might not even know that they're auditioning for it until they get the part. So that's interesting.
Right.
Very interesting indeed. And of course, Olivia is a comic series character, so did you know about that prior to getting the character as well?
Yes, actually, I knew her better from the comic books because I have 2 little ones, so I didn't watch the show much before I was cast. But I read the comic books, and so I knew who she. Once I found out what her name was, I was like, "Oh yeah, I love that character." So yeah, I know her very well from the comic.
And it helps that she has a great name.
Yeah, I love her name, and it reminds me of the olive branch, and extending peace and all that.
Definitely.
Stuff.
Moving on to my third question, what has your experience been like working with the cast and crew of The Walking Dead so far?
Well, it's great to work on a show where everyone feels so blessed to be working on it. You know, no one's kind of phoning it in. Everybody knows how blessed they are to be a part of this project. So they all really give 110%. And the crew's the same way. You walk on set and everybody's really happy to see you and happy to be together. It feels like a family. So it's a challenge because we shoot on film. So we're trying to get it in the first couple of takes, which is, you know, with my theater background actually suits me just fine. I'd like to try to nail it as quickly as possible. But that lends to an air of professionalism with the show that I really
love. So interesting, and pretty much everyone who I've interviewed who has worked on The Walking Dead says the same thing. Like, there's no egos. Like, everyone wants to be part of it, which is great.
Yeah, I actually we have some new cast members this season, and I just sent a quick email to Scott Gimple not too long ago and said, I don't know what magic you have that allows you to keep casting just these people who are so lovely, so talented, so humble. But he definitely has a very
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. Moving on to my fourth question. In the season 6 premiere episode of The Walking Dead that aired recently, First Time Again, Olivia is part of the group that listens to Carter's plan to kill Rick Grimes and take over the Alexandria safe zone. Do you think this indicates Olivia might not be so fond of Rick and the other newcomers?
I don't think so. I mean, I think she's cautious because, you know, this has been her community for a while, and someone coming in and so quickly wanting to take over is disconcerting. But I also think that she says to Carter that you got to be really careful about this. This is, you know, you're talking about doing something that, and she gets cut off, but basically I don't think she's on board with Carter. I think that she knows Deanna is incapacitated right now because of her grief. So I think she sees the good that the newcomers are bringing, but I think also she's cautious. She doesn't know.
Yeah, I think that's a really great thing to say, actually, because there was a similar idea in the comic series as well, where a couple of characters wanted to overthrow Rick, and Olivia was also among them, but she was like, as you said, she was cautious, and she didn't completely agree with them. They sort of drafted her into their group, which was interesting. But yeah, what you said is completely great. I think that's a great way to look at it, so thank you very much. So moving on to my fifth question, aside from The Walking Dead, which have been your favourite projects to be a part of in your career?
Wow. My stage work, I would say probably the favorite project I've ever done was at the Berkshire Theater Festival here in the U.S. It's in Massachusetts. I did a dream play, the Strindberg play, and played Indira, and that was an amazing spiritual project. And then so far in my acting career, certainly The Walking Dead is probably number one, and a very close number one would be a film that I have coming out in February called Same Kind of Different as Me. I got to play a very different character than the type that I usually play, and that was most of my scenes were with either Renee Zellweger or Greg Kinnear. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
It's interesting, and obviously, as you know, an actress yourself, when you get to play a character very different to the ones you normally play, that's always very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a real good challenge. I would like it to be like that always, that I'm always kind of getting a real wide variety of things to work on.
Moving on to my sixth question, outside of acting, you also teach acting at universities and schools as well. How did the opportunity to teach acting come about?
Well, you know, my father was the head of the jazz program at Loyola New Orleans for 36 years. And so that school has known me my whole life, basically. And once I, got my master's, I applied at Loyola a couple different times to teach full time before I was too busy acting. But now they've been inviting me to adjunct teach, particularly film acting, and also direct plays. And it really, teaching really informs your own process and strengthens your own process, because you have to explain to other people how you do what you do, and help them critique their work. So I really, really enjoy teaching for that reason. Plus, every student is so individual, and how you reach each student is particular to them. And I enjoy that challenge of inspiring the next generation.
Yeah, that was actually a two-part question, which I split up to make it easier, and you kind of answered the other part at the same time, which is kind of funny, actually. And the second part was actually, how important do you think it is that talent like yourself teach students about their experiences of acting before they try getting into the field?
Yeah, I think it's crucial. I think it's crucial that actors study with actors who work in the field, because it's important to have academic teachers too, teachers who are unbelievably well versed in the histories and in different art forms related to acting. But I think you always need to have one or two teachers who actually do this for a living, because the reality of being an actress is very different than the study of it. And so the knowledge that you bring students when you're an active actor yourself is very immediate. I'm able to come in and say, oh, last night was opening night of this play I'm working on, and it had that weird opening night energy that I hate. And because we hadn't been rehearsing at the level of performance, so all of a sudden an audience comes in and everybody gets completely off their game. And what we should have been doing all along is rehearsing, at performance level. So there's something precious about having actual working experience to draw from.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah. So moving on to my final question for you, Anne, do you have any upcoming acting roles or any other projects you would like to talk about?
So 99 Homes is in, I don't know if it's in the UK, but it's in theaters in the US right now. And it's a wonderful film by Ramin Bahrani, who did Chop Shop. It's about the subprime mortgage crisis in the US. And I play Mrs. Tanner, and we get evicted from our home, and it's a really intense scene with Andrew Garfield, who people may know is playing Spider-Man, and Michael Shannon's in that film, as well as Laura Dern. So that's out right now. And then, of course, obviously, this season of Walking Dead, and then in February, Same Kind, Different as Me will come out. And in the meantime, I have 3 different television series I'm writing on, trying to find producers who believe in me enough to do them. And you can actually check out the sizzle reel for one of them at socialwork.tv, and it's spelled WERK on purpose, so socialwork.tv. And you can see the sizzle reel for that show there. And then I'm writing one based on acting school, and another one based on my experiences being raised in a small southern church here.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff to keep you busy, that's for sure. So
Yes.
Yeah, I'm the same, really. Yeah. So we'll be sure to keep an eye out for all of those projects, and I hope those shows you've been writing do get picked up by someone and, get producers, as you said. Yeah. So we'll be sure to keep an eye out for all of those. So thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for
and
having
hopefully
me.
we can talk to you again at some point. So I'll talk to you again soon then. Bye, and thanks again for joining us. Bye.
Alright, bye.
So that was our interview with actress Ann Mahoney. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. So that was our interview with actress Ann Mahoney, of course. So time to wrap up today's interview with our podcast links, of course. So Make sure to check out our podcast links, check out our website.everythinggeekpodcast.com/EGP. We have a few reviews up on there you might want to check out. Just thought I'd give a little shameless plug on some of the things I've put up on the website today. Check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp. Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our Mixcloud profile, www.mixcloud.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Email us at the below email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our companion podcast, Everything Geek Comic Cast, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekcomiccast. Make sure to check out the host's YouTube channels. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/separatist-destroyers. Check out Ann Mahoney's website, annmahoney.com, and check out Channel 138 broadcast live from www.channel138.com. So geeks out, everyone.
It was in the mid-60s, so when you played war, it was still the Americans versus the Germans. I don't know what they play now. And we had, woods near my house. We have, all these battles.
Working for a client, so, and you do have a lot of creative freedom, and you have a lot of suggestions, but ultimately you're trying to satisfy someone else. When you're creating your own show, you do have people collaborate.